In November 2022, a 30-year-old guy from Southern California bought a lottery ticket for the $2.04 billion Powerball drawing. His numbers 10, 33, 41, 47, 56, and 10 were a perfect match to the winning numbers, and 6 months later, he claimed his lump sum prize of $997.6 million.
The name of the person who was the only player to match all 6 numbers of the historic Powerball drawing last November is Edwin Castro.
He made headlines quick after he went on a spending spree, buying several luxury mansions and cars almost immediately after winning. But here we are just a couple years later, and Edwin is making headlines again. His latest move, he's buying up lots that burned down in the LA fires, which has sparked a bit of controversy because Edwin has made it very clear that he's not buying these lots for charity. He's planning to build homes here and sell them at market value. In general, locals aren't thrilled about investors and developers doing this. They're calling the influx of investors a second wave of disaster following the fire. Today, let's talk about the crazy amount of money that Edwin has already invested in this area so far. Let's talk about why he has chosen this specific pocket to invest his money. And we need to talk about the interesting and somewhat controversial restriction that he's putting on these properties after he finishes building them. Before Edwin Castro was a billionaire, he was living here in Altadena. He grew up here. He went to Crescenta Valley High School. He was a Boy Scout. He played football and baseball. Reports say that he grew up in a modest and wholesome family. After high school, Edwin went to Woodbury University in Burbank to study architecture. But in November of 2022, Edwin strolled into the Joe's Service Center on Woodbury Road to pick up a Powerball ticket, and he had no idea that moment, his life was about to change forever. Edwin ended up being the sole winner of this massive jackpot, and understandably, he laid low for a little while after he won, just probably spending some time getting his ducks in a row and putting his financial team together and all that stuff. But in California, lottery winners are public records, so he wasn't going to keep this whole thing a secret forever. In February 2023, the California Lottery held a press conference and made the announcement as to who was the largest jackpot winner in history.
As you might imagine, Edwin would like to largely remain private. He understands his name is part of the public record and now part of history, but he respectfully declined our invitation to appear publicly with us today.
Edwin got spending right away, starting with a $25.5 million mansion in the Hollywood Hills. Not long after that purchase, he bought a $4 million house in Altadena. This one he bought for his parents. Only a few months later, Edwin scooped up a $47 million home in Bel Air. We've talked about this house a bunch here on the channel before. It's kind of infamous. He bought it for almost half of the original asking price. Next, it was time to have a place a little closer to the beach, so he bought a home in Malibu that he paid $3.8 million for. He sadly lost this one in the Palisades fire. Then, as if all these mansions weren't enough, the icing on the cake is that he goes out and he buys several new cars, including a vintage $250,000 Porsche 911. Naturally, whenever somebody goes out and spends nearly $100 million on real estate and cars within just a few months of winning the lottery, there's going to be some speculation that Edwin was going to be another one of those stories of a guy who wins the lotto and then eventually loses everything. But he did bring home around $628 million after taxes. So yeah, I think if he has a good enough financial advisor, he's probably not running out of money anytime soon. A couple years have now passed since Edwin's big win, and he's stayed mostly out of the spotlight since. Every once in a while, he's photographed leaving the bank or leaving an attorney's office, but that's about it. That is until recently when he started buying up homes in Altadena that were impacted by the fires earlier this year. As the filming of this video, it has been about 10 months since the Eaton fire started, a fire that destroyed thousands of structures and was ultimately considered the most expensive natural disaster in U.S. history, with even more damage caused than Hurricane Katrina. Wind gusts of up to 90 miles per hour threw embers for miles. It became completely unmanageable for local emergency teams, and by the time the fires were finally under control, over 4,300 single-family homes homes were burned to the ground. Edwin started to buy lots around town a couple of months back, and to date, he has spent $10 million on 15 lots in total, making him one of the biggest buyers in the area. Like I said at the start of the video, a lot of locals are a bit skeptical about this investor activity happening, but what's interesting is that Edwin is actually a bit of a local celebrity around here. A lot of the locals know who he is. And so in some ways, from what I've read, some of these locals are actually a bit comforted by the fact that he's the one who's buying up these lots. One thing that Edwin has made very clear as he's been going about this is that his goal is to sell to families that want to settle down in Altadena. He says those are the people who need to be looked out for right now, and he's not looking to build a bunch of buy and hold rental properties. It is unbelievable the amount of lots that are available for sale out here right now. There's 130 lots as of the filming of this video, and all of them are in that $700,000 range, which is about what Edwin paid for each one of his. It's super sad. I mean, a lot of the lots have been cleaned up to make it look like a little bit more ready for development, but in general, it's obvious that these places were impacted by the fires. Some of the listings are a little different. Like on this one here, they're asking $720,000. This is what the property looks like right now. So they actually left some of the structure up, but it's pretty sad because if you flip over, they show you this is what used to be there, so it kind of gives you an idea of what you could possibly rebuild here if you bought it. It seems like more often than not, though, when you click through these listings, most of the lots look like this. I'm not sure who's gone through and done all of this cleanup work. I would imagine that it's probably some local volunteers that have come and graded these properties and made them look more presentable. It's just one of those things that you could imagine. If you're an investor like Edwin, you're not going to be bothered by a little bit of rubble on the lot, but if you're a potential family or something that's wanting to buy one of these lots to build your house on, it's going to feel much better walking onto a property that looks like this compared to something that looks more like this. Edwin is new to real estate development, but he's taken this responsibility of a real estate developer very seriously. He hired a design consultant to help with his plans and getting permits, and he already has plans for the first 2 small lots submitted to the county. Like I said at the start of the video, though, this is not a charity move on his part. Edwin is looking to build these houses and sell them at fair market value, so he does plan to make some sort of profit here for his efforts. Just rough math on my part says he should make a couple $100,000 per house by the time he's finished. He is taking his time with the project overall, though. He says he expects the entire build out to take him about 10 years, partly because he's going to take his time and do things the right way, and partly because he doesn't want to be the first guy to have a bunch of finished houses for sale in the area. It's a sad reality for him to think about things this way, but it is smart because as a developer, you always need to be thinking about the end buyer, and there's kind of 2 factors in play here. The first one being that end buyer, if they're looking at your beautiful house that you've built, they're going to be thinking about the fact that when they're leaving for work every day and when they're coming home every night, they're going to have to be passing a bunch of burned down houses on the way to their new house. Plus, another thing that these buyers are going to be thinking about is whether or not they want to live in a house that's going to be completely surrounded by construction for at least the next 5 years. That's going to be noisy. It's going to be dusty. Not a lot of buyers are going to be okay with that. There are some locals, though, who are willing to accept these realities and they're willing to be a part of rebuilding their town right away. Mansion Global reported that the residents in Altadena who are rebuilding have settled into temporary housing for the time being as they figure out these next steps. The biggest challenge by far when we're talking about any kind of real estate development in California is all of the red tape that somebody like Edwin is going to need to jump through before he's able to even start the home building process. A typical house in most parts of the country takes maybe a couple months to design, a couple months to get a permit from the city, and then another 8 to 12 months to build. But in California, even with promises of streamlined permitting for people impacted by the fire, it's going to be a long time before these neighborhoods start feeling like neighborhoods again. Despite those challenges, there are some developers like Edwin who will slowly be doing their part, and there's other developers who actually seem to have it all figured out already. A home builder out of San Diego called New Point Communities bought 13 lots in Altadena so far. Construction's already started on 8 of those 13 lots, and they hope to finish all of their projects within the next 8 months or so. That's exciting and refreshing to see, but the next issue many people are worried about is affordability. Altadena used to be a more affordable option for housing compared to some neighboring towns, but the numbers are the numbers. If you're a developer who's buying a $700,000 lot like the ones that we were just looking at, and then you're going to spend another roughly $1 million in construction costs and holding costs over the course of your build, you're gonna need to sell these things for at least $2 million when you're done. There's just no other way about it. I will say there are groups out there who are trying to figure out how to do the affordable housing approach. Just one that I stumbled across while working on this video is called the Oak Grove. It's an affordable housing complex of 16 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom, single-family homes that are under construction as we speak. No idea how they were able to make the numbers work on this development, but if I had to guess, it's a combination of, for one, they got the lot for a very, very low price before subdividing it, and for two, maybe somehow they've tapped into some tax incentives. One thing that's really cool about all this is that Edwin and others in the area are going to do their best to retain the original charm of Altadena. They plan to build craftsman-style bungalows and Spanish revival-style homes that hopefully can give the area that small-town feel that it always had. Even though it's a tough pill to swallow for some locals, it's generally not a bad thing for guys like Edwin to be buying 15 lots at a time and building 15 houses at a time here. I mean, in a way, he is fast-tracking the rebuilding process of the entire town. Hats off to Edwin for doing something good with his lottery winnings. I'll see you guys next time.